So my loves, if you haven't subscribed to my YouTube channel, what are you waiting for? Go ahead and press that subscribe button. And don't forget to press that notification bell so you can receive weekly updates of all my recipes. Don't forget to like. Don't forget to share. Let everybody know, your friends, your neighbors, your family, your cousins, about Jackie's cooking. Guys, today we are going to make puff pastry from scratch, also known as millefeuille in French, okay? And I'm going to show you this techniques. I have two techniques. I have one for quick puff pastry that I will link in the description box below, okay? And this is the original puff pastry. I love it. So there's two parts to making this French puff pastry known as millefeuille, which is known as one, the trempe, which is the dough. This is the body of the puff pastry, okay? And the second part of making the puff pastry, okay, this second part is known as the beurrage, the butter block. That's the fats, the solid fat that we're going to use. But I use butter when I make my puff pastry. This is a very good recipe. I prefer to do quick puff pastry, but I wanted to show you all how to do it. So we have some all-purpose flour here, my loves, that we're going to use. We have some ice cold water. Ice cold. Do you hear me? See that ice in there? Ice cold water. We have some salt. Of course, we need salt in there for flavor, of course. We need some sugar, again, to balance out the flavor. And you're going to need some lemon or lime juice. And the reason for the lemon or lime juice is to keep it tender, but also prevent those specks, those dark crusty specks from forming on the dough. And I guess that's due to the salt. So that's what the lemon juice is for, okay? We also have in the back, okay, which is our butter, of course. You know, we have our fat back there. This uses lots of butter. Okay, this is the butter block that we're gonna make. It uses lots and lots of butter. I've been doing this for years, okay? So, and then we're gonna need some flour. We're gonna add some flour in there, and because the flour is gonna help it become more pliable when we put it into dough. So guys, now we're gonna make the beurrage, which is the solid block. Have this at room temperature because it'll be easier for you to work with. As you can see, room temperature, you can put your hands, fingers in it. It's easily to indent. It's pliable, okay? And now we're going to put our flour in here, okay? The ingredients, guys, are in the description box below. I'm doing this in a separate bowl. I'm using my hands, you know. This is 1, 2, 3 to do, okay? You're just gonna mix that flour in there. If you want, you could use a wooden spoon if you have, but I'm using my hands. My hands are nice and clean because we're gonna make this butter block, okay? And this puff pastry, once you learn how to do this, you're gonna be able to do so many things. There's so many things you can do with puff pastry. But I'm gonna have a part 2 to this video, which is how to make those Haitian patties. Okay, and of course we use puff pastry, and guys, people are gonna love you because you bring these to parties and stuff. Well, I know we can't do parties now, it's kind of difficult due to the COVID, but once you learn how to make this, guys, I like this better because you don't have to buy it. You can make it at home. It's so good, nice and buttery. Trust me, this puff pastry here, you're gonna love me. You are going to love me. Your friends are gonna love you because you're gonna be like, OMG. So here it is. So now we're just, you know, mixing in our flour into our butter. I could have put this in the stand mixer, but I didn't want to do that and make a mess. So now, my loves, as you can see, I took a square pan that I have, and I'm using some plastic wrap, okay? And we're going to just put the butter in here. Okay, I'm doing the plastic wrap so we can take it easily out of the pan, but I'm going to put the butter in here. Okay, as you can see, I'm going to do like 2 sheets of plastic wrap. And we're going to put our butter in there, and we're going to let it cool in the refrigerator. Then it'll become a solid block. Okay, we don't want it to be so rock hard cold, but cold enough where it could be pliable with the same texture as the dough. But we will get to that explanation as we go through this process. Okay, so all you do is just put it in there. I wanted to do this. There's some parts I did speed up, but at the same time, I want you to see how this is. Now, when you're making this original puff pastry recipe, there's some elbow grease you got to put in here, okay? That's why, for me, I like to do quick puff pastry, which will be linked in the video below. So as you can see, I'm just molding this in. Okay, but I'm going to use the plastic to just fold over, and I'm just going to use my hands to press it down and mold it into the pan, and we're going to put that in the refrigerator. Okay, and while that's cooling down, I'm going to kick out my stand mixer. I'm sorry, my loves. I used to do this by hand, kneading it by hand. But if you have a stand mixer, it really makes this process here a little bit easier. But when you're working with the quick puff pastry, which I'm going to link below, you don't need a stand mixer. But I'm going to show you, but you'll see how that works. So we got our stand mixer, my loves, and we're adding in our dry ingredients, which is our all-purpose flour. Now, some people, when they do it, they use two different types of flours. Some people, now I'm adding in my salt and my sugar, and we're going to mix the dry ingredients together. Some people will use probably half bread flour and half all-purpose flour, or half cake flour, because they probably feel that they'll get a different texture. But I just use regular all-purpose flour because I still get a great result. Okay, so now we're adding our ice cold water, which is just 1 cup of ice cold water. The temperature is very important. Okay, and now we're adding our lime juice, which I told you is going to keep this tender and keep any dark specks, hard crust from forming on the dough. Okay, now we're letting this mix just a little bit, because now I'm going to take one of those blocks of sticks of butter. Okay, and we're going to work that into the dough. So you see right here, it's not fully incorporated. I'm just going to add this room temperature butter. I did it by chunk, You don't want the flour flying all over the place, but I'm adding it by chunks in here so it could just get incorporated into our dough. Okay, and we're only going to knead this in our stand mixer for 4 to 5 minutes tops. Okay, no more than that, because you don't want to overwork the dough. You don't want to overwork this dough, okay? Because we want a nice, you don't want the dough to develop too much gluten. You're not looking for a tough pastry. You just don't want to overwork that dough. All right, so this is our dough right here. Okay, and it's really nice and soft, as you could see, and we are going to wrap that in some plastic wrap. Okay, and I'm going to shape it into a square, so when it's time to roll it out, it'll be easier. Okay, I'm going to pop this in the freezer for about 15 minutes, okay, because I could do that because I'm used to doing this. But for you guys, if you're beginners, I would pop this in the refrigerator along with the butter for at least an hour and a half, okay, because you want both of them to be at the same temperature, so both of them could be pliable, the same pliable consistency. okay, when you're doing this. But as time goes by, you'll be able to pop this in the freezer, you know, and take it out, and it'll be quicker for you to work with, okay? But because I've been doing this for years, I'm used to doing it. But for the beginners out here who's learning how to do this, pop it in the fridge for at least an hour. And this, I mean, doing the original puff pastry does take a longer time, but once you get used to it, you'll be able to cut corners and be like, okay. So now this is our butter block that we took out, and I am now flouring my surface here. Find the surface. This is my détrempe. Okay, and we're going to roll that out to at least 20 inches long. Okay, and 10 inches wide, because I want to make sure I can, just because we got to put that butter in the center. Okay. If you follow this step by step, you will have great puff pastry. Okay, I mean, yes, I do have a video on how to do quick puff pastry, which I just prefer to do because it's less headache and you could work with less amounts of flour if you want to do a smaller recipe or so forth. But, you know, I just prefer to do it like this, and it's less butter. Okay, so as you can see, I'm rolling it out. Okay. So, as I was saying, you know, I want you to learn the different. There's also another technique that's like this, but I noticed that they roll out the butter and they put the dough on the inside of the butter, which is the inverted type. I don't care to do that one. You could try that one if you want, but I prefer to do it like this. This is how I've learned how to do it. I also have, you know, my cousin first. I have a cousin of mine who taught me. I've been doing this since I was 10 years old. So I remember she used to come over and teach me how to make puff pastry, you know, do those Haitian patties and so forth. So as you can see, I put the butter on the inside and we're folding. We're making like a seal, like a little package, and sealing the dough. Okay. And you want to try to minimize the amount of flour you have on your surface. You just need just a little bit of flour just to keep it from sticking. Okay. And now we are going to, as you can see, you got to put some elbow grease. I have flour on my arm and stuff like that. You're going to have to put in a little bit of elbow grease in this to roll it out, you know, at first. Okay. And for each turn, you would usually let it rest for at least an hour after you fold it. But I'm going to show you how to do this, because again, this is a laminated dough. And the thing with this is with the puff pastry, it's nothing but layers of flour and butter. The butter is in between each of those layers. That's what creates the flakiness. Okay, so I rolled it out to at least 20 inches by 10, and I'm brushing off any excess flour. I did just speed this up a little bit. Okay, so now we're going to take one part, we're going to fold it like an envelope. One part is folded, and we're going to fold the other part over it. And if it's cold enough, you could get two rolls out of it. By all means, do it. If not, if you feel that the butter is warm or what have you, or you know, resisting you, then put it in the fridge. But I'm able to give it 2 rolls at this point, okay? Because we're doing a total of 6 rolls. 6 rolls. That's what we're getting. A total of 6 rolls. Now, guys, when we're doing a total of 6 rolls, what we're doing is each roll is like a layer of butter, a layer of flour, a layer of butter, a layer of the dough, a layer of the butter, a layer of the dough. Once that dough hits the oven, the preheated oven, the butter, the moisture in the butter is shocked by the heat of the oven, and it releases the moisture and it causes it to puff. That's what it is. That's what causes it to puff. So there's no leavening agent in this, no baking powder, no baking soda, no yeast, none of that stuff. So we're rolling it out to at least 20 inches. Okay, and I'm brushing off any excess flour. Okay, you want to do that. Any excess flour, you don't want any excess flour in this. Okay, so this is my second roll. Okay, I'm ensuring that I'm brushing off each layer. I'm folding it like a book. I'm going to put it in some plastic. I'm going to pop mine in the freezer for at least 20 minutes. But you're going to put it in the refrigerator for an hour. Okay? Because you're a beginner at this. Once you get advanced, you can do it whatever you want. So I took it out again. I'm speeding up the process, my loves. I'm going to roll it out again. Okay, and as you can see, I keep flipping it over. So don't have I keep flipping it over to make sure the layers are even, that the corners are nice and even. Okay. So I'll try to roll it out by at least 20 inches long and at least 8 to 10 inches wide. Okay. And my loves, if I didn't tell you this before, the ingredients are listed in the description box below. Okay, so don't worry. But once you follow this step by step, you'll be all right. Okay. I'm not saying you're not going to have a few mistakes here and there. Don't worry about it. Excuse me. And also, if you noticed when I first did the roll, well, over here, guys. So now, wait. This is what we're going to do. As you can see, I folded one half in between halfway and the other half in between halfway, and then I folded the whole thing like a book. Okay? So now I'm going to give it another roll, and that is going to be a total of 4 rolls. Okay? So I want you to pay attention. I'm sorry, I was just probably talking too much. Okay, so we're going to roll it. Make sure the sides are even. You see, with quick puff pastry, to me, you get the same. To me, I like doing quick puff pastry now, and I think along with a lot of chefs, pastry chefs or what have you, because it's quicker. It's 1, 2, 3. You can do it in under half an hour. Okay, but I'm just doing this to show you all the original version of how to do this. But and it's good to know. It's just good to know, So, again, I'm rolling out to 20 inches long and at least 8 to 10 inches wide. And I'm going to brush off all the excess flour. And what you're going to notice that I'm going to do, I'm going to fold one half in the center and the other half in the center. And then I'm going to fold that again. And I'm going to continue doing that. See? And I fold that part again. And it's like you're creating a book. Every time you're folding it, you're creating hundreds of layers. Hundreds and hundreds of layers. That's what millefeuille means in French. It means 1,000 layers. Okay? So you see what I did? We're going to put that in plastic. I'm going to let it cool. I'm put it in the freezer for 20 minutes, but you're going to put it in the refrigerator for an hour. Okay, that's for the beginners out there. Okay, and if you can't get 2 turns out of, the first batch, take your time, do it one at a time. Okay, so if you feel the dough resisting, that means you need to put it back in the refrigerator and you need to let it rest. Okay, so I'm just speeding it up here. As you can see, I'm always ensuring that I have my pastry brush and I'm brushing any excess flour. I'm folding in the middle, folding the other part in the middle, and then I'm going to fold it again, brushing off any excess flour, and I'm going to give it another turn. If you can't do 2 in 3 sections, just do 1 at a time. Take your time doing this, okay? I've been doing this since I was 10 years old, and my first times doing this, I've made mistakes. Sometimes the dough wouldn't come out right or what have you. So don't be worried if something comes out wrong. If the butter breaks through the dough, Don't lose or catch a fit. Just work for it. That just probably means that the butter was a little bit colder than the dough itself. Okay. And this is my last roll. Okay, this is my last roll. We're rolling it out a total of 6 times. And guys, this will become so puffy. So puffy. And my loves, if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. Don't forget to press that notification bell, like, and don't forget to share, okay? So as you can see, I'm folding one part in the center and folding the other part in the center. I'm going to fold it again. And we're basically done. Okay, and we're letting it rest. And guys, this is our puff pastry. I just want to cut it so you can see the center. And don't forget, I'll have the quick puff pastry link in the center. Okay, and with that quick puff pastry, what's so good about it, it doesn't require a lot of unnecessary stuff. Okay, it's quicker. You can do it within a half an hour. All right, but if you look close, you can see all the beautiful layers. And you know, when you're working with this, guys, there's so many things you could do with puff pastry. I'm going to show you in part 2 of this of how to make meat pies or meat patties, or in Haiti we call them Pate Feuilletee, you know. And I'm making the one with the I'm going to do one with some beef filling. I'm going to show you how to season that beef. But my loves, please leave me your comments below. Please try this recipe. Let me know what you think. And do 3 things for me. That's eat, love, and pray. Bye.